Yeah, okay, record.
Oh, now we are. Okay,
There you
cool.
go. All right, so we can jump right into it. So, hi, Mike.
Good.
Hi, everyone. My name is Finn. I am head of product at Zight, previously called CloudApp. And we started this little podcast called Inside the Workflow, where for a few minutes, 10, 20 minutes, we're going to talk to executives about the way, they like to work. And today, I'm meeting an old friend, Mike, who is a product leader in Montreal. Mike, welcome.
Nice to see you again, Finn. It's been a while.
Yeah. Okay, for people that don't know you yet, can you tell us a little, 1 minute about who you are, what do you do, who do you focus on?
Sure. So career perspective, my name is Mike Godso. I work in and live in Montreal up in Canada. Um, I've been in the startup scene and building companies for over a decade now. I had one small company that I built and sold back in 2012 to 2014. Then I started a company called Smooch. That was a company that I started while working as a consultant for another startup. And with the founders of that startup was able to buy the IP assets, spin it out as its own thing. That was a messaging communication platform as a service. Did business and competed with like the likes of Twilio and did business with all of the major players in customer experience. One of those players bought us in 2019, was a great exit for us. I went on to work at Zendesk. I became an SVP of product over at
Awesome.
Zendesk, responsible for the roadmap and products globally. And then at a certain point, I just missed working with a Canadian company, working with a smaller team. I wanted to get a lot closer to LLMs that I had seen doing early work in GPT-3 land with OpenAI back at Zendesk.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get a heck of a lot closer to that. And I joined Ada, which has been a lot of fun. So Ada is a Canadian company that builds autonomous agents for customer support automation. So our AI agents, you onboard, hire, manage, and promote them just like you would a human agent. And they're able to automatically reason through complex customer queries by individually looking at every question that comes in and figuring out how they should go about solving it, using the knowledge that your company has, using the tools that your support agents currently have access to, and bringing that all together to really act as a virtual agent. We're about 300 people or so, 350 people spread out across North America, Europe, and Israel.
Awesome. And yeah, I think the way I actually reconnected with you is that we use Ada at Zight. We love the tool. We started like a little Slack channel, like Project Ada, and we just really wanted to get it out the door to help us, handle the volume of support requests that we have. The support team so far, loves the different handoffs that they got. Yeah, I think I met you around the time where you started Smooch.io.
Mhm.
Loved the name, and then I saw that it got acquired by Zendesk.
Mhm.
Yeah, great path there. And it looks like there's a trend where you're focused really on like conversation and support teams, correct?
Yeah, I would say that my intention going into this space and building products in this area was not to do customer support. I
Yeah,
had this dream ever since I was a kid of, I was a huge, I am a huge Star Trek fan, and I
right.
wanted to build a conversational computer. I thought that was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. And I wanted to be able to have these kinds of interactions with not only computers, but also virtual people. Huge fan of the holodeck and all of those storylines about that. So as I got into this thinking around conversational tech, that took me on a journey of understanding, well, like what was state of the art, what was possible.
Yeah,
And I learned very quickly that before you could even get to automation, at least in the earlier companies that I built, that there was just frankly platform problems to resolve and how data and messages and conversations would be stored and organized and transmitted from point A to point B. So I felt that my whole career now has been about, well, how do I start at the platform level where we built that, we understand how that works, then going up to the human level and how they interact with digital platforms, and now thinking, well, how did the computer itself interact? So
yeah.
finally, that top level of what these systems look like. And support is really the entry point here, right? Like at the end of the day, we're going to create the concept of a virtual customer facing human being that is able, or artificial being that is able to interact with and work with so many different systems and different ways that you might hire it and put it to work. And that's a pretty exciting thing to work on.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I connect with you there where we grew up in a time where we had all of these great ideas through movies of like, here's how communication should work, here's how tech should work. and 20 years later, it actually happens, or we have all the tools that we can like put together.
It's starting to take shape. We're starting to live in the future, which is pretty cool. At
Exactly.
least
No,
we
no flying
imagine.
cars, but we got some great little like tools that can help everybody work faster. In terms of AI and Ada, like I think you mentioned um, uh, around the time of GPT-3, is that when the company got started, or did it do something before? Or
No, interestingly, Ada and Smooch got started at roughly the same time. And that's when I first met Ada's founders. We were off building Smooch in Montreal. Ada's founders were building Ada in Toronto. And they came at it from the perspective of being customer service agents themselves and trying to automate away their job. And the technology they were using at the time was state of the art. It was basically using natural language understanding to map a given utterance or something that a customer would say to a set of pre-programmed intents and trained intents in the system. That worked actually, and is the foundation of many of the chatbots that you see and that you might encounter on the web today. But that capability, what it really struggled with is because it was built on pre-programmed intents and workflows, really struggled to adapt to the nuances and flexibility of customer service because those conversations can go anywhere, as you know. People are in crisis, or they're upset about something, or they're curious about something, and their dialogue might go places you would never predict. And often chatbots would frustrate people because they would get in the way and try and force you down a path. It's why when I started at Ada, the first thing I did was I authored a product strategy. And in that product strategy, I said, well, like, let's go back to first principles and say, what is this business trying to do? And the first goal of this product was to automatically resolve customer service issues. And for the entire company's history, call it since 2015 or so, it had been measuring, just like everybody else in the industry, a metric called containment rate. Containment rate refers to what percentage of contacts that you're getting from your customers are you able to prevent from going to a human customer support agent. Containment rate cost savings. But I said, this seems suspect because we were getting like 80% containment, 90% containment in certain cases. But you look at the experience that those systems provide, and they were pretty poor. Just as a casual person experiencing this, you realize that this wasn't perfect customer support. So we said, okay, let's actually now go and do manual work to read all these conversations and figure out, of the conversations that we're having, how many did the bot actually resolve? How many did it actually perform as well as a human would be? And what we found was that that number was actually way closer to 30%. And we did this by manually annotating conversations across literally tens of thousands of conversations across our hundreds of millions of processed conversations. And that got us to work. We're like, okay, we need to figure out, how do we actually evaluate true resolution? How do we drive that number up and give our customers tools to do that? And the minute we shifted our metric and our focus on being this high quality, high bar for resolution, the easier it became to prioritize what we were doing in product, to prioritize how we were going to market with the technology, because now we have a way of really claiming and showing our value in a way that's much more connected to what the customer actually experiences.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like the more senior I get, the more I trust the data, but I need to verify the data. Okay, great, we got these great metrics. If it's too good to be true, there's probably a problem somewhere with the data as well. Related to AI, like where do you think it's going? Maybe, I don't know if it's on Ada's roadmap.
It's a very broad question.
It's a super broad question, but I think specifically for you, like in the support world,
I mean, look, what I mentioned earlier, that when I started at Ada 2 years ago, we were automatically resolving 30% of the conversations we were getting, despite containing 80%. Right now, if we look at the adoptees of our platform that is built entirely on large language model, that cohort of customers is automatically resolving north of 60%, and the best ones are resolving, not containing 80%. These are conversations where, from a human perspective, it's really hard to distinguish that you're not talking to another person and that you're talking to an AI agent. With that growth rate, I think the first thing we're going to see is that on this metric of automated resolution, where the system is providing accurate, safe, and relevant responses to the questions it's asked, we're probably going to see the first business emerge that has a 100% automated resolution rate in the next 12 to 14 months. Like that, if we just look at the straight line on the graph, that's where it's tending towards. So I think that's the first place. But it doesn't stop there. My view is that as we start to as we get deeper into the system, the hard part is not going to be the intelligence and how smart these systems are. Everyone's going to be able to buy really cheap, really good intelligence. Every model generation that whatever company comes up with is going to be better and better and better. The challenge for businesses is how do you manage and align it, right?
Yeah.
So you might purchase, a great system of intelligence, but what are the levers that you have? There's going to be two things. What are the levers that you have to control it so it gets the job you need to get done? Support is very widespread and different companies want to do it in different ways. People throw in revenue generation into support. There's other like customer facing tasks, like all get muddled together. So the importance is going to be how do you control the system and align it to what you want to do? And the other important is going to be how do you verifiably trust the system? So how transparent is it? How do you work with that? So if I think about like our own roadmap and then I think more broadly to the industry, I think what you're going to see is AI where the cost and quality of inference, quality goes way up, cost goes way down, while at the same time, the companies that are going to win are the ones that provide tools that businesses can use that are self-serve, that are easy for them to achieve that alignment and achieve faith in the system working properly. Those two things happen, I think we're in a good place.
I totally agree with you. I think even when we started looking at a tool like Ada and adding it into our system, our goal was like to speed up a lot of the interactions that previously would just be on a queue for 24 hours.
Right.
So we want to have a good hybrid model where our support agents are helping on the tough problems that are probably harder to solve to set a better process. We still, in our first days with Ada, we looked at all the different chats and tried to make sure, okay, it's actually helping, or like maybe let's add some tagging here so we can look at it later on. So that's really interesting. In working with support teams, Zight also focuses quite a bit on support. We do like a screen recorder, so it's a lot of support agent recording, like here's how you need to solve the problem, and then showing it to the customers. And it's interesting how we started with a simple tool that is like record your screen, but we see more and more needs for like automation. Like right now, a support agent is recording a 10-minute video walkthrough. The person at the end of the line just wants a transcript, just wants the summary. They want to be able to quickly, act on the video and not wait 24 hours, wait to get on a call. So like really trying to speed things up. Since you have a ton of experience like working with support teams or support companies that have large support agent teams, what's the best thing about working with them?
I mean, I think some of the things that was surprising to me the more I started to work with companies and their support teams is that we have often as consumers this perspective that they are these, you call into a customer support angle and the people working there are in a cost center, miserable, not able to innovate, don't have vision and whatever else. It actually couldn't be further from the truth. Like one thing that I found in common with almost every support leader that I've spoken to is a tremendous amount of empathy and a huge desire to drive great experiences for their customer. I think they have tight resources and like economics that make it hard for them to deliver that as well as it can be. But, even the most evil people that the people eat, they shouldn't call them evil, but that, the Reddit will often, make fun of the Comcast people or whoever else at a big telco or whatnot. And it's fun to knock on them and you can tell lots of hilarious stories. But when you actually meet the people behind those customer service experiences, they have a vision and they're trying to work towards it. But the scale and complexity of it makes it really hard. It's why I think technology is essential, right? It's what enables to connect people that have a very strong opinion of CX and what experience should be with the realities of delivering it. And that's how we're going to get there.
Awesome. Yeah, I started my career working in a call center. I was working for the Orchestre Symphonique de Montréal. So it was like selling music tickets, and everybody I was working with, they were all super passionate about music and here's what you need to do and here's how I can help you. Then I worked for the Apple Store, which like it's funny how it's all customer support, all helping customers. And Apple, the one criteria that they had for hires was empathy. Like if you're a nice person, they will hire you, and that they will try to, like, it doesn't matter if you're not in tech, the person you're talking to wants help, wants someone that is nice to interact with and a quick answer. So whatever you can do to help them.
Upskill.
Yeah. One thing that surprised me recently is this title of CPTO, so Chief Product and Technology Officer. I totally relate to that title, as I started as a developer, then went to product. Can you tell us a little bit, about the kind of role that this entails versus just a traditional CPO or CTO?
I mean, it's definitely something that I would say in the last few years, we've seen emergence of quite strongly. I've been meeting many other folks that are in exactly the same perspective. Um, Folks, the title CPTO might be a little bit new and less common, but actually this concept of bringing together product and engineering under one leader has been seen in many larger companies as well. Interestingly, at Zendesk, at their scale, where it's like 5,000 employees globally, when we were acquired, both product and engineering SVPs reported into a president of product development, whose role was to oversee both and think through, like, how do we bring through the market strategy with the execution of this? Now that person has moved on to a different role, but they still have it together within essentially a CPTO as well. So like it works at a larger scale. What I think, the reason why I think it works is that you get to have like one like unified vision and strategy, and most importantly, one accountable person for the technical product offering that is coming off the line, right? It means that you have one person ultimately who is assessing the balance between technical improvements, quality of architecture, and all of the stuff that's really, really important in building a product, and customer value, and is able to answer to the CEO and the board to explain why the balance is what it is and navigate that. It avoids a lot of the struggles that you can often have between a head of product and a head of engineering, where there could be like there's often debates around timelines, there's debates around like quality perspective, and what this forces to happen is you start thinking about architectural goodness, level of quality, level of security, other concerns as product features and as things that are marketable and are part of the whole package. So I actually think that, like, while we've seen this in the past in some circumstances, I think we're going to see it way more, particularly, since coming out of 2022 and the bloodbath that we've seen in SaaS. There's a big call for efficiency and a big call for like strong vision, strong leadership, and less time in debate and more time executing. So I think it just drives up efficiency overall.
Awesome. Yeah, I do connect with that. And even talking to my VP of engineering, Sachin, even at the board meetings, we now take a relay on like, I'll do the update this time, you'll do the update the other time, because at the end of the day, technology and product are the same thing. So he has a specific skill set related to security that I don't have. I'm more on the customer interviews, customer focus.
Right.
So we complement each other, but I see at some level, or someone that can do both, amazing. That probably.
And I think you're going to see it the other way. You'll see it the other. Sorry for interrupting. You'll see it the other way as well, right? There was a great tweet by Brandon Chu, formerly at Shopify, a couple of days ago, that really reflects something that I do a lot in my role. Like, even though I've got huge team, lots of resources, when I need to demonstrate an idea, I'll whip up a code editor and I'll build a POC of it at night and be able to show my team the next day the working POC to drive alignment. And I do this all the time. And I actually think my best PMs are the ones that do this as well, that don't just talk in Figma and mockups or like PRDs and documents, but that will actually be able to demonstrate 90% of the capability of the interaction to drive alignment. So I think what you're going to see is that, especially as we get more AI-assisted coding tools, particularly as like it becomes easier to open up Cursor or whatever and like generate your ideas and work through it, it's going to be so important for product managers to think like engineers. Like he put like a very controversial statement out there, Brandon. He said something like, maybe within 5 years, we're going to see that product and design teams are the ones who build features, and engineering teams build infrastructure and security and hardening and reliability. It might actually be this way, right? That like product and design teams build user-facing features end to end. I could see that happening if they squint. Not sure we're ready quite yet, but I think there is a potential there.
Yeah, I saw that tweet, and 100%. I always saw the need of being somewhat technical as a product manager, not just customers focused, or like you need to be well-rounded. And we're in a great age where I can do proof of concepts with ChatGPT, or even alone, but it speeds up my workflow. And instead of just delivering mockups, sometimes it's like either a straight up small code change that I want to do, and I don't want to add it on a ticket. put in a backlog.
Absolutely. And I think the tool that I would support most there is like a developer, just like you, I'm a developer turned startup founder and turned PM, right? Is that this tool called Cursor, cursor.ai.
I'll definitely check it
It's
out.
like it's a version of Visual Studio Code that has been tuned to have some AI features built into it deeply. It is the best experience I found so far for like pair programming with ChatGPT, where if you know what you're doing, if you're not a developer, it's not going to help you become a developer, I don't think. But if
Yeah.
you understand how to write code and how these systems should work, you're able to be so effective when you're working with this thing. I've actually even said like maybe I should like go on Twitch and live stream some session of building an app with it. Um, because
Oh,
I
I'll
just
watch that. I'll
yeah,
definitely watch that 100%.
I probably should do that, but I think like it's pretty magical to use, and you can like, the rate that it accelerates you when you're a product person who is messing around with code is actually pretty incredible.
Yeah. I do a lot of build in public stuff on Twitter, and where I help my wife build her business. And like, I learned React. I was like, all right, let's just open a ChatGPT window, VS Code window, and let's get started. And it's crazy how I even just copy paste the whole code, help me, clean this up and tell me why, like, so I can learn the language at the same time. So it's
So try Cursor. I think you're going to be pretty impressed with what
yeah,
it's able to do. Yeah.
will do 100%. Just to I think spend a few minutes to end this podcast on you and how you work with your teams. So I'm guessing with a company of 300 plus people, you get emails, Slack, phone calls, meetings. What's your overall policy? How do you manage to scale yourself up to the level of your team?
This is really hard, and I don't think that if anyone says in the
I
industry that they're doing this well, I think they're lying. First line of defense, and it's a privilege, but my assistant Sarah is extremely good at just making sure that my time is balanced and managed, and that the right things are in front of me. So, like, without a doubt, this is great. I'm actually looking forward to a time when there's tools that allow more people to experience this, because the more you give it up, the better, and you give that agency up to someone, the better it is. Beyond that, things that we hold really dear. One is making sure that there's like a dedicated day in the week without any meetings or interruptions allowed. So that's Tuesdays for us. I think that has been a real boon. Booking a meeting on a Tuesday is a serious thing. We try and avoid it.
Nice.
Beyond that, my directs will either be on weekly or bi-weekly one-on-ones, depending on their seniority and where they need to be at any time. I've got a weekly team meeting for my leadership team. And then as execs, we tend to meet once a week, generally, sometimes twice a week. We tend to do as many offsites as we can because we're a remote company. We did put in a flexible travel policy, which has been a boon for us, where basically we allow our teams to travel as much as they want, whenever they want, again, within reason, to be able to accomplish business goals. So we see this a lot with engineering teams that are distributed, coming together to a city at the beginning of a quarter or mid-quarter, work out anything related to the planning and architecture, and then split up after a few days and go back and do something. The big unlock for us was removing the red tape for that and making it easy for people to just go in the system, book. We obviously track it, but we haven't seen any abuse in the year and a half that we've been doing it. And it's just been a really powerful way for people to align, particularly in product development.
Amazing. Yeah, we are also a 100% remote company at Zight. So like we have headquarters and not headquarters, but we have a lot of people in Utah and some in Poland. So next month we're all traveling to, a few of us are traveling to Poland, meet the team, and eat the delicious food from there, and a good time to bond. The no meeting day Tuesdays, yeah, I think that's like uninterrupted time for a long period of time without a quick stand up. Even a quick stand up, I find over time can just be
I
time
should
suck.
say the other thing that's really helpful, I don't do this with my own team, but I do with my executive team, is every Monday, and we don't all do this, but some of us, it's a weird thing, but every Monday I'll write out my priorities for the week. It's something I've been doing since the Smooch days, where I basically like, this is what is occupying my headspace this week. Just know about it. And I found when my colleagues do that too, I find super useful. And I'd like to think that that practice also helps folks, because there's a lot of things that you can't see in the meeting, that you can't see in the regular discussion. So really important to say, like, this is what's worrying me. This is what I'm inspecting. This is where I think there's a problem, particularly like in a big org with a complicated product. Like often I have to go into the details to like look at something that I think is not right. So I'll share those very transparently. And I think it's a habit that if more people got into being vulnerable and open with like what's working well, what's not working well on a regular basis, we collaborate a bit better.
Awesome. Do you use any like framework like EOS or like for these weekly exec meetings, or is it mostly like priorities roundtable?
I mean, we have like some framework that works for us. I don't know if it's comes from any system, but we basically have like top of mind issues for everybody, and we've got more long running issues, and obviously we care about our core metrics, and everything starts with the metric review, where we're at, what's in the way, how are we trending, dive in.
Awesome. Yeah, we do something similar, but it's like we follow the EOS, which is like, yeah, updates from the team, scorecard, company issues, people issues. Like we just go through.
Yeah, I say we're not that structured. We should be, but we're not.
It doesn't look. It sounds structured, but it's like a template. We copy paste. Awesome. I want to be really, mindful of your time. So thank you so much for the conversation. Any, where can people find you? Where can they find Ada?
Ada's over at ada.cx. Check us out. There's a free trial available if you want to touch and play with the system on your own as well. That's recently developed. Otherwise, you can find me on LinkedIn or on X as well, Twitter.
Amazing. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.